Hey guys, Nick here with Picture This, and today we're going to be talking about 5 big wastes of money for beginner photographers. So, without further ado, let's get straight into it. So, when you're just starting out, you're like really eager. You're like, oh, I gotta buy this. I gotta buy cameras. I gotta buy tripods. I gotta buy like all the gear and all the land and the most expensive gear you can find. And the first bag, oh, this bag is really expensive and it's got a million pockets and I can fit all this stuff in here. And that's not really the approach you want to take, only because then you're down a bunch of money, and if you want to go to like a location or something, you don't have the money to get there, so then you're just sitting in your house with your big expensive camera and big expensive lenses taking photos of like lamps and couches and crap, and that's not very fun now, is it? So first big thing that is a waste of money when you are just starting out is a camera. Like, not any camera per se, but just like a really expensive camera right when you're starting out. I would recommend like a beginner camera, like a Canon Rebel or a Nikon D3000 or something like that. If you want to see my full review on the Nikon D3000, click the card up here. Yeah, I think it's up there. And yes, check that video out. So, a little bit more on cameras. I feel like if you're just starting out, you don't need a camera with all the bells and whistles and everything else. You just need something that will kind of get you by, that has full manual so you can learn each aspect of the exposure triangle, being shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. And from there, you can kind of graduate up and work your way up to better cameras as you go there. Another big waste of money, filters. So this one right here is a circular polarizer, and I feel like some polarizers, or not polarizers, filters are a big waste of money and some aren't. So I mean, polarizers are okay if you're doing a lot of like outdoor photography and by water, so it kind of like negates glare there. So that's pretty helpful if you have a polarizer. One thing I don't recommend buying are UV filters, especially like the cheaper ones too. They don't really do a whole lot. They just kind of protect your camera sensor and all the elements from the UV rays in the sun, hence the name UV filter. But I don't really recommend them, because if you have a cheap UV filter and you have a nice lens, you're just putting a really cheap piece of glass over your really nice lens, and that's going to affect your image quality greatly. And no one really wants little specks of dust and the sharpness to go away just because you put a cheap UV filter on there. So if you really need a UV filter, I recommend spending a little bit more money on a UV filter. Other than that, polarizers are cool. ND filters are cool too, if you got a decent one. Variable ND filters are cool too. I actually just got one in the mail a couple days ago. I'll show you here. Here it is. So this is a variable ND filter by KNF Concept. I am not sponsored by them. And what it is it's an ND filter, obviously neutral density. And as you turn it, I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but it gets darker as you turn it, and that's super good because if you're shooting out in really bright conditions, it allows you to keep your shutter speed the same, keep your aperture the same, and allow you to have all your settings locked in, and you can continue to shoot great looking video that is nice and tack sharp and great. And ND filters are also good for long exposure photography, like if you're going out and doing like a waterfall or like the ocean or something. You can turn the ND filter if it's a variable ND, or you can just put on a higher density ND filter, and you can crank your shutter speed to like 1 second, 5 seconds, and it won't be totally blown out and overexposed because you have your ND filter on there. So another big waste of money for beginner photographers are tripods, especially if you just dump a bunch of money on a really expensive tripod like the Peak Design travel tripod. So there's something in like the consumer world and when you're buying called the point of diminishing returns, and it's where if you spend X amount of money compared to another product, if you're spending just some huge amount of money, you might not be getting as much of like an improvement in quality and performance as just a product that's just a little bit cheaper. And I think the best way to explain it is this tripod, it does the job. It's not super expensive and it does what it needs to do. Whereas the Peak Design tripod, it's really expensive. It does the same thing. It does a little bit something different, where it can like go really low to the ground. But this was like, I think 30 or 40 maybe. And then the Peak Design travel tripod is like $1,000. So as you can see, there's a really big diminishing return there, because $40 compared to $1,000, and you're only getting a little bit more kind of feature set, and that's just totally crazy. So if you're looking to buy a tripod, don't go nuts. Next item on the list is bags. So this is the bag I bought when I got my first camera that I'm shooting on right now, the Samsung NX300M. I kind of just needed something to protect it and carry it, and I didn't really give it a lot of thought. So, I mean, it worked for a while, and then when I picked up the T2i for free, and then I started building out my kit with it, and now I have 2 lenses for that and 1 lens for this. This bag didn't really cut it anymore, so I started to look at more of a formal backpack that I can also grow into, so I can get more lenses and a bigger body. But in that backpack, I would be able to carry both bodies and all my lenses, and then eventually, if I got like a Mavic or something, I could throw the Mavic in there too, and it would all be well and good. So again, bags, if you need something, again, don't go nuts, because then you're down a bunch of money on a bag, and then you're gonna end up getting a new bag or graduating to a bigger bag in a little while. Fifth big waste of money for beginner photographers is drones. So I feel like if you're just starting out, you don't really need a drone yet. So I say if you have a camera, you have the basic things you need, like a kit lens or something like that, you don't need to buy don't need to blow money on a drone. It's just absurd, because you're just starting out, you don't really know what you're doing in most cases, and you're just trying to learn. So it's not gonna help if you also have a drone and you're just taking like crappy snapshots or something like that, because you don't know what you're doing with the drone either. So in my opinion, if you're just starting out, just start off with a basic camera and like a basic lens and learn what you're doing first, and then you can pick up a drone, because you'll know how to use it better, and then your only limit is basically your compositional creativity and your skill at flying, of course. So I think that about does it for this video. If you guys like this video and might want to see more, drop a comment below, leave a like, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.